can all join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Keep the palms down. All right, good morning, everybody. Good to see you all here. Welcome to those who are maybe here for the first time. I just have to share this story for those of you who didn't maybe see what I posted because I think it's pretty funny. Is Muhammad here by any chance? No. Okay, that would have made it even better. But so I got a call yesterday, day before, I think yesterday. And the phone rings, and this guy kind of, it's kind of, you could like hear the frantic nature in the voice and the noise around and everything. He says, "Is this Jeff?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "Oh, good, because I'm at Costco and I just met a monk and I want to learn about Buddhism. And he told me to call you." And it just kind of went from there. And I thought it was really funny. And I said, "Oh, so what was?" I said, "Who was it?" And he said, "Well, hang on, let me search." He gave me his Instagram page, so let me search for that. And there were so many things to me that were funny about that whole experience. And welcome to Buddhism in San Diego in the year 2022. You got monks at Costco. You got somebody responded like Kirkland brand Buddhism or something like that. But the reason I bring it up, other than again, there's humor in that story for me personally for so many reasons, but I think it's a really just very real reflection of the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago, and they say that he could see in all his past lives and all future and everything like that, but I wonder if he actually knew that 2,500 years from now, some dude would be roaming through Costco asking about Buddhism. And I think it's such a beautiful reflection, in my view, of how important this practice and these teachings are to people in however it works in their life. And those of you who've been around a long time, a lot of you, and some of you maybe, newer, is that for us, we don't care. When I say us, I mean kind of the Dharma Bum Temple philosophy, and most Buddhists for that matter, really. We don't care, like we're not following you, thank God, outside when you leave here. Where you go, what you do, what you believe in, who you pray to, where you shop, what you eat. That's your world. And our world is to introduce a very simple practice and way of life that can drastically change everything you do out there. But it's not dropping any views or judgments on anything that you do. out there. And in most cases, the only one judging the things you do out there is who? You. By you, you meant you, I would imagine. Right? It's you. And so when we come into something new like this, there's often that, almost wall or barrier or guard up that people often think like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this Buddhist thing properly? And my suggestion is not to be wrapped up in, are you doing the Buddhist thing right? But to be wrapped up in, how is your life on a day-to-day basis? And is your life on a day-to-day basis changing? Is it evolving? Are you becoming kinder? Are you becoming gentler? Are you becoming happier? Are you becoming less greedy, less angry, less ignorant? Not to judge or critique yourselves, but just to explore these things. So again, especially for those who are new, many people, I should say, come into this practice thinking they want to learn about something else. And that else is Buddhism. But what it's really coming down to is, what are you learning about yourself and how you're functioning on a day-to-day basis? That's what the practice is. And the Buddhist teachings are simply like a mirror to reflect back on, how is this changing or altering my life? And the beauty of that is, if you change the way you think and speak and go about your day, that impacts every single person that you encounter in your life. And that's the real joy, I think, of this practice. Right? Because, people have to put up with us. I heard some laugh a little louder than others, but we are the ones, right? Often I say that we're sitting here right now very often because we have conflict and challenges in our lives. And often those conflict and challenges are tied to other people. There are things and places, but very often it's tied to other people. Right now, somewhere across this great land that we live in, someone else is sitting in some other meditation class, Buddhist class, yoga class, therapy class, whatever it might be, because of you. I hate to break that to you, but that's the reality. We are not free from being the one that triggers everybody else in our lives. So it works both ways, really. So it's a beautiful practice for yourself, and then to recognize that as you begin to make changes, it will impact those around us. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll start with the meditation practice. To those joining us virtually at YouTube, nice to see you all. Thanks for being here. There's a chat box on the screen. Feel free to say hello, introduce yourself. We get to questions. You can chime in there as well. A couple things I'll tell you as we begin, especially for those who are new. Nothing's going to happen to you. You will not float away. You will not have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are we doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit and breathe. You'll hear sounds. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. The practice of meditation is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. So whatever the sounds are around you, that's what's happening. The challenge is, can you be okay with it? Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward, allows the back to straighten slightly. Same thing on a chair or a bench. Just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders. Hands are on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, do not expect anything, but to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments of the practice. Just sitting, breathing. keeping the mind alert. Aware of each sound. Each thought. Each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, it's nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awaken. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. This practice is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day. So all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape as often people think it is. It is direct perception into the present moment. And very often that present moment is incredibly difficult, challenging, hectic. So it's learning not to escape from something, but to actually be with something. And become aware of what arises as we go through our day. It's a practice. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. Sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and everybody else. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything around us, and we work on our reaction to the world around us, life gets simpler. But it takes time. So with that, I'll pause. For me, I always prefer just to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything that's on your mind. And we'll use the rest of our time this morning. I'll open up to questions. And again, for those joining virtually, welcome. Feel free to say hello or share any thoughts or questions, and I'll do my best to respond there as well. So questions? Yeah, sorry, I didn't see the hand.
Jeff, talk to me a little bit about this enlightenment, the term enlightenment, and how do I recognize somebody that's enlightened or practical?
I have no idea. Talk to you about enlightenment. I'm just going to repeat that for all of our YouTube fans. Talk to you about enlightenment. And the second part of the question was even better. I thought it was good right there. And then you said, how do you know if someone is enlightened? Right? Or what was a lot? You said something then after that, or like partially enlightened, or I missed the.
Practical applications of seeking enlightenment.
Yeah, don't seek it. So a couple things. Great question. A lot of things I could say to this. All of them unenlightened responses. The first thing is, if anybody says to you they're enlightened, that is the first key that they're not. If anybody says to you they're a bodhisattva or a Buddha or a fully awakened being, that is the first indication that they're not. In fact, that's actually really dangerous. That should be your first indication to turn and walk away when people present themselves that way. I mean, even just think of it, forget like Buddhism for a minute. I'm just going to kind of ramble on this thought. Imagine meeting somebody who's, I don't know, whatever their talent is, you know, putting plywood in windows. And the first time you meet them and all they do is talk for 20 minutes about how they're the best at putting plywood in windows. Do you really want to sit and listen to that? Do you really even believe them? They've done nothing, but they're just trying to convince you that they're the best. And then they're going to tell you how much it is to put plywood into windows because they're the best. Right? So for me, my observation of what I would consider most genuine, beautiful teachers, masters, mentors on this Buddhist path, monks, nuns, lamas, lay people, all talk about just how they're just simple human beings trying to get through their day. You know, Dalai Lama all the time says he's just, you know, just a simple guy. That's it. I mean, the dude's about as enlightened as it gets. Okay. In my opinion, the reason I said don't seek enlightenment is that the Buddhist teachings really talks about that we all, now I'm going to sound like I'm contradicting everything I just said. The Buddhist teachings say that we all are already enlightened. So if you want to meet an enlightened person, just look in the mirror. That's the good news. You're wasting your time here this morning. You are already fully enlightened. This is just something to do for an hour with friends, you know? The idea behind that, if you haven't heard me share this, some of you have, but is that the Buddha taught that the Buddha nature, bodhicitta, that enlightened being, is within us already. It's not something outside of us. We don't seek it. We don't get it. We don't attain it. We don't acquire it. It's already there. On a cloudy day, is the sun there? Do you see it? On a cloudy day? No. Why? Because there are clouds covering it. When the clouds part, what do you see? The sun. The clouds are your practice. In Buddhist teachings, the clouds are the three poisons. The second noble truth, the cause of our suffering, greed, anger, and ignorance. Do you know when you're being greedy? Sometimes?
Yes.
Do you know when you're angry?
Yes.
Do you know when you're ignoring reality and stuck in your own views? Oh, yes. So yeah, yes, and oh, yes. All right. So you're 3 for 3. Those are your clouds. Do not seek enlightenment. Do not seek awakening. Seek to minimize, reduce, and remove greed, anger, ignorance. And the bodhicitta, Buddha nature, will shine. Make sense so far?
Yes.
And I think the other important piece, not just with enlightenment or awakening or nirvana or any of these kind of key things, when we read Buddhist stuff, just like everything, we have this idea. We are conditioned to think that there's something that we have to accomplish or achieve or gain or win or get better at. I mean, most of you probably didn't have somebody tell you when you were in like 8th grade, hey, just get C's and everything will be fine. Right? Boy, that would have been nice, wouldn't it? But no, it was always about having to do better. So we have our entire lives of this conditioned behavior, this conditioned pattern, way of thinking that what we're doing is not good enough and that we have to be better. And when you break it down, for most people, that actual conditioning that we all grew up with is the reason that so much of us are suffering. Because we think we're supposed to be better than who we are and how we are. What's wrong with how you are now? So you have some greed, you have some anger, you have some ignorance. So do all of us. But can you still love that person? Right? Oh God, I have to read this. This is probably one of my, in all the years of doing this, one of my favorite things I've ever read. So give me a second here. So our college group, which a lot of you know of or hear me talk about, Delta Beta Tau, 7 years ago, we started the nation's first only Buddhist fraternity at San Diego State. So I'll just leave it at that. And they started an Instagram page this semester. And totally on their own, they built this thing. It's called the Eightfolds, and it's brilliant, right? I mean, they're like 2 weeks into learning about Buddhism, and they decided to set up an Instagram page called the Eightfolds after like the Eightfold Path. And their little kind of, I don't even know what that's called, bio or something there, says, we are greedy, angry, ignorant, ... And it's why we join together as a community to practice generosity, compassion, and wisdom. Full recognition of greed, anger, and ignorance. I mean, at least in an Instagram bio, which these days is good enough, right? So it is that acknowledgement of our levels of greed, anger, ignorance, our awareness of it. And then can we still love and appreciate who we are as human beings? And as Shunryu Suzuki said, one of my favorite quotes is, you're all perfect exactly how you are, and you all could use a little improvement. Most of us don't roam around thinking that way. We spent a whole lifetime of putting ourselves down and thinking we're not good enough. And therefore, we put ourselves down and buried us in these little, poor pity holes over here, like we're miserable, terrible people. And then we come into Buddhism and we read about nirvana and enlightenment and awakening. We're like, okay, I'm this piece of crap over here. I need to go over there and be enlightened. Nowhere to go. You're already there. Stay where you are. Just work through what's going on. So, yeah. Yeah.
So I guess related to that, in terms of not trying to get more awakened, I would kind of argue the motivation to start down that path and the Eightfold Path is, with the Four Noble Truths, to recognize like, okay, this is the source of my problems.
Yes.
It's saying there's a way out, which is the Eightfold Path. And so when I read that, I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And then you start reading, and there is like, it lays out a process of practices you can do, improvements you can make. Isn't that kind of like this kind of core motivation? Like, if I follow this path, I will become more clear-headed and present, and maybe not become awakened, but improve.
Yes. And do all of that, please.
But you're kind of saying like, don't try.
No.
Like you're already.
What I'm saying is, don't set the goals. Don't set the expectation. Don't do it to become awakened or enlightenment or attain enlightenment or to improve. What's the Nike symbol, logo? Just do it. So what I'm saying is, yes, the Buddha laid out the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and everything you said is absolutely, and as the Buddha taught, the craving, desire we have to awaken, to suffer less is a healthy craving, healthy desire. You've heard me say that a million times, right? So keep that, and you said intention. Keep the intention of practicing so you can be a kinder, gentler, happier person. What I'm saying is drop the attachment to the outcome, or drop the attachment to the goal as if it's something that you have to attain. Just practice simply to practice. But if we practice it with this idea of achieving or attaining or gaining, then we've in essence set up like a scorecard for ourselves. And I don't know about you, but I'm not going to be a fully enlightened, awakened being in any near lifetimes. So if I set that as my goal, then I'm going to feel like a failure every single day. In fact, that's one of the biggest problems I see in a lot of Western Buddhist worlds is they read all these books by Pema Chodron, the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, about being these gentle, beautiful beings floating through the earth and flowers coming out of your feet and hugging everyone and being compassionate. And you read all these books and you're like, this is so wonderful. And then you get in your car and 3 minutes later, you're honking at somebody and flipping them off. And you're like, what happened to the book I just read? And then we feel as if, oh, this stuff's not working. So practice all of that. Just don't attach to an outcome or a goal, is what I'm suggesting.
I feel like at least where I'm at, having motivation gives the drive to try, and like just the motivation to improve.
Yes, the motivation to part the clouds, but not the motivation to dig out the sun.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Motivation is, that's the diligence. That's the right effort, the right diligence. That's the, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, that's the teaching of Dogen. He would say, practice if your hair's on fire. If your hair, I don't have to worry about that so much, but if your hair was on fire, you probably wouldn't just sit there and be like, yeah, my hair's on fire. I'm just going to let it burn for a while. No, it hurts. And what the Buddhist teachings is saying is that we're hurting a lot in our lives. So be diligent, put in the effort, the motivation, work hard to part those clouds. But if we set ourselves up with this idea that we're going to attain nirvana or awakening at the end of the day, you're going to go to sleep every night feeling like you failed. Yeah. Other thoughts, questions?
So since I've been coming here, I don't know, a couple, 3 months, I've heard you say, and some of the other people who set up there, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a guru, I'm not a master, I'm just kind of like a guy who's gonna teach you some stuff. I see you as a teacher, now that's my perception. But it seems to be important, and this is my perception also, that you not be viewed by us as teachers. Why is that? Why is that?
Yeah, so a couple things. I have been saying at the end of meditation, I'll start with this part, then I'll tell you the kind of history behind where that came from, and then probably ramble from there. But at the end of every time we sit, we transfer merit, and then I always say, Those of us who lead, we're not nuns, we're not monks, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students. We're just practitioners sharing. I don't even say teaching. You said teaching. I don't even say teaching. We're sharing our view of Buddhism, right? And so when we reopened after 16 months being closed, and we altered some things with just seating and social distancing, COVID protocols in place, we also added the new element of Dharma Bum hosts, which was nice, so we could screen everybody at the door and microchip you and all that kind of stuff when you come in. And one of the things we also added then was, as a way to just kind of get more people engaged and volunteering, was we then put a script at the end for them to share. And so Travis wrote it, and he literally wrote pretty much exactly what I always say. So then every person who leads at the end of it, the Dharma Bum host reads the same thing I just said, right? Now, about maybe 10 years ago, I was leading a class, and some of you may have been there. Jack, you were probably there, at Buddha for You. And I used to, when I would lead, I used to always wear, so in Taiwan, around the monastery, these gray pants, and I have a shirt that in essence is the same thing, right? And I always tell my parents, like, we live in these like gray pajamas, And so when I used to lead classes, that's what I would wear. And head was shaved, has been probably since high school, but I sit up here, I lead Buddhist stuff. And so there's a perception that you all would have. Just like if you go see a movie or anything, or food, you perceive and make judgment, critiques, likes, dislikes of everything you see. After that class, about 10 years ago, this guy came up to me and he had a couple questions. I don't even remember the topic. It's really irrelevant. But he said something to me, and I said back to him, he referenced me being a monk. And I said, I'm not a monk. He's like, you're not? I said, no, I'm just some dude. He got really offended. He felt as if I was, and I didn't used to say, this is before I'm no monk, I'm, that kind of stuff. This is before that. I never used to say that. And I told him I was no monk, and he got really upset. And he thought that I was like trying to trick people into thinking I was being a monk. And if you've sat with me more than twice, that's really hard, I think, to do, because I don't present myself that way. I intentionally try not to, for many reasons. And so after that class, starting the very next class, I started saying that line, if I'm no monk, I'm no teacher, I'm not looking for students. I also, shortly thereafter, stopped wearing the two together. And I also still don't wear the black high chain robe that I traditionally would wear in something like this, because I don't want that perception. Does that make sense so far? Then, years ago, there was a great, she was a vice abbess at Upaya Zen Center, worked with Roshi Joan Halifax for many years. And this was also maybe about 10 years ago, around the similar time. And she came through and did a short, quick talk. And I'd only met her once, but one of the most brilliant people I'd ever met. Tremendous admiration, respect for her. And I asked her kind of about this. And I said, I recognize that people will perceive me a certain way, but I don't want that. And she said, Jeff, it's not up to you. It's up to them. You can present yourself however you want. Whatever they're going to think of you and view you as, that's their choice. You have no control over that. What you can control is the responsibility and relationship that you choose, and boundaries that you choose to set up and create or not. And so through that dialogue, kind of adding to the another piece to this, it became very clear to me at that time, I have tremendous respect for very traditional, religious, 2,500-year-old Buddhist teachings and practice. I have tremendous respect for the fact that there are lineages, there are ordination ceremonies, there are processes to go through where you are authorized to teach, right? I've been making this stuff up for 16 years. Nobody ordained me or authorized me to do anything. Sure, I've done, ceremonies and given Dharma names and have all these kinds of things, certificates, but I'm just making stuff up. And so I don't feel appropriate to present myself as a teacher. And I definitely don't feel appropriate, and this comes up a lot, we've had this conversation, I don't do one-on-ones with people. And everybody here is instructed clearly to not do one-on-one meetings with people, which is very common, especially in the Zen tradition. You have the master, you have the disciple. Do you think in a Dharma Bum temple that I've been running every day for 16 years, I want to create a dynamic where one of us becomes your master? That's super dangerous. That opens up Pandora's box for tremendous abuse of power. I could abuse of power, unethical behavior, sexual misconduct. Those types of one-on-one relationships where you meet with a teacher and a student are very special, very rare, and very important in Buddhism. But they need the right conditions. And I always say we built the Dharma Bum temple, like if you ever take kids bowling, right? And you got like the little bumpers that come up the gutters so the ball doesn't go down the lane, which, come on, kids should learn that once in a while your ball is going to go down the gutter. But hey, I didn't invent the bowling game, right? So they have these bumpers now. I always say for me, guiding this place, I just put bumpers up. So that bowling ball is going to roll down the lane and go side to side. Just make sure it doesn't go down the gutter. So we put those in place because it keeps everybody safe, And again, like I said, none of us are authorized, ordained to be teachers. No matter how nonsensical, is that a word? Okay, good. I was going to use it anyways, but no matter how nonsensical I think the modern day American structure of Buddhist teachers is, because I think it's ridiculous, to be honest with you. You take a 6-week course and all of a sudden, everybody's a Buddhist teacher. Here, go through a 9-month course. I'll give you a certificate. There's a monk from Taiwan, great master. And anyways, there's a disciple of his I wanted to teach. He says he's only been a monk for 20 years. He's not ready yet. Nowadays, you pay a bunch of money, you take some 9-month course and go teach. So many problems. So, yeah. Unenlightened folks leading unenlightened folks. We're good with that. Yeah.
Would you be comfortable to agree with the statement that you facilitate conscious awareness of who we are? That as a facilitator of, when I ask a question, you're giving an answer and pointing one way or the other,
I'm comfortable saying you ask questions and I respond, and whatever you do with that response is up to you. It's on you. Sorry. Which is also great because then I don't want ownership of what you're doing out there. You've improved, but you might have a bad day. And then you're like, well, my Buddhist teacher, Jeff, told me. I'm like, dude, don't throw that on me.
Some of my best teachers were people who were the worst. They taught me how not to be.
Right.
It's not always who, I watch it.
Right.
Okay, don't want to be that way.
I forget her name, but I'm pretty sure she was famous, and I could be making this up, but along with everything else. But I think she's like a famous marriage counselor, like worldwide, and she's been divorced like 8 times or something like that. And the whole idea is that the experience is there, right? And so for me, I always present this as, and when I say stuff like, my God, I always say, like, if I actually wrote all the stuff I've done, my parents are still alive. I can't do it when they're alive because it would kill them for sure. And they know most of it anyways. But it's not like out of humility that I'm like trying to say, like, I'm like, really, I know this stuff so well because I've screwed up for so long. And I'm just sharing it. But, yeah. I mean, I liked your conscious awareness, fancy word stuff. You know, it's great. And I think it's the last thing I'll say on that is I think it's important that super important for all of us who lead to recognize, going back to what Beate taught me when she said to me, Jeff, it's not up to you. It is important for those of us who lead to understand that we may not present or call ourselves teachers in that manner, but to be very aware of the fact that there's 50 people out there staring at me, potentially listening to what I'm saying. And that's something you want to be very careful with, you know, especially maybe to those who are younger or more, you know, susceptible to being kind of, you know, drinking the Kool-Aid and stuff like that. You know, this kind of modern day new age spiritual world's a little weird. And there's a lot of those people out there doing really weird, scary, dangerous stuff. So we need to be aware of that power, even though we don't call ourselves teachers. We know there is that potential abuse of power in this dynamic, even just sitting here. Which is why I do my very best to know as little as possible about every single one of you. Don't take that the wrong way. So the less I know, the easier it is for me to do what I do. The more we know, then it just becomes more therapy, counseling, personal stuff. You know, I'm sorry about your drama, your divorce, your death, your, you know, like all that stuff. Of course, we get to know each other over the years. We don't like shield you off completely, but it's really the more we know makes it harder, honestly. So, yeah, that's the short answer. Yeah. So we'll close on that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who lost lives in the shooting in Colorado, their family and friends who continue to suffer to this day. May they all be at peace. May we all be at peace and free from suffering. All right, just a few quick announcements before you all head out. Thank you for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma bum. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers. We're not looking for students, we're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. Every night we have different practices going on, different unenlightened folks leading different tradition of Buddhist practice. A couple new things out of the ordinary I'll just highlight real quick, or maybe newer changes. Starting this coming Friday, we have a new recovery program called Recovery Dharma. It'll be every Friday night at 7 up here in the main hall. It's a really great group that was put together over the last 3, 4, 5 years, probably 3, 4 years. They have a little book. It's beautiful. It's very structured, which is different from what we normally do around here, but hopefully it'll go okay. And so if you're battling addiction of any kind whatsoever, or just want a safe place to come to on a Friday night, that'll be every Friday now, 7 o'clock. It's a peer-led group. So we'll meet here Friday at 7. There's a little flyer we just put up outside if you want to read more about that. Or their website, recoverydharma.org, is a really beautiful resource as well. So they have groups all over the world, literally, a huge online presence, and more in person now that things have opened up a bit, but they do not have a local in-person San Diego group. So super excited and proud that we're going to take that on, and grateful to everybody that's helping make that happen. So that'll be every Friday night at 7. Other than that, New Year's, we'll do our 15th, 16th annual Dharma Bum Temple New Year's celebration. So if you've never done a silent and sober New Year's, here's your chance to get them both done out of the way, and you'll survive, I think. We'll do a 7 o'clock, maybe potluck, some sort of meal downstairs. 9 o'clock, I do some form of the history of the Dharma Bum Temple. And then about 11:30, 11:40, we all come up here and we do about a 20-minute meditation into the new year. So the whole night's not silent, just the last 20 minutes. So all are welcome for that. Other than that, thanks for being here. I'm going to skip out quick because I'm on shop duty downstairs. So if you need me, I'll be down there. But thanks all. Oh, and if you want to stick around and help clean up outside, that would be wonderful as well.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.